Welcome back, my friends, to The Mortals. It's a place where we shatter the barriers brick by brick, diving into the raw, the chilling, and often unexplainable edges of life, death, and the shadowy spaces that are in between. I'm Nathan Morris. I'm your guide through these tales that are going to grip your soul and linger long after the silence falls. But before we plunge into today's darkness, I've got a little cautionary tale for you. If you're new here or you haven't smashed that follow button, you better beware if you haven't. Because legend has it, if you don't follow the Mortals, you're going to find yourself at a family reunion accidentally spilling your plate of mystery casserole right onto great Aunt Mildred's lap during her heartfelt toast, earning a glare that could haunt your dreams for years. Don't risk it. Save yourself the ghostly guilt. Hit follow right now and join our community of shadowed souls. And also, new episodes drop every Tuesday and Thursday, so set a reminder to keep the chills coming. Tie a string around your finger, whatever you got to do to meet me right here. And today we're unraveling two stories that are going to leave you breathless. Two real, barely whispered counts of survival against odds that are so staggering, you're going to wonder if something or someone beyond our grasp had a hand in their fate. These aren't just escapes from death. They're brushes with a purpose that we can't quite name. So let's step into the unknown. Our first story takes us to the frozen, desolate reaches of Labrador, Canada. In the brutal winter of 1982, it's near a remote Inuit community called Nain. This is a land where the cold isn't just a nuisance, it's a predator, where the wind howls with a ferocity that can strip the warmth from your bones in just minutes. Nain sits on the edge of the Labrador Sea, surrounded by endless tundra and jagged cliffs, and a place that's so isolated that it's often days away, if it comes at all. And it's here we meet a 19-year-old man that we're going to call Elias. He's a young Inuit hunter raised in the traditions of his ancestors. He's very skilled in tracking caribou and navigating the icy wilderness. Elias is tough. He's resourceful. He's the kind of person who'd faced blizzards before and lived to tell the tale. He's someone that you would want to have with you in such an environment. But on February 9th, 1982, he was about to encounter a storm and a survival that would defy every skill he'd ever learned. It all started as this routine hunting trip. Elias was heading out solo to check snares that he'd set for Arctic hare, a quick day's work to bring food back to his family. He packed light, snowshoes, rifle, a small pack with dried fish, and a flint for fire. He kissed his mother goodbye, promising to be back by nightfall, and trudged out into the gray morning, with the temperature hovering at a bitter -15 degrees Fahrenheit. And the sky was heavy. The kind of oppressive gray that hints at snow. But Elias, he'd seen worse. His plan was very simple. He'd hike about 5 miles north to his snare line. It's near a frozen creek. He's going to check his traps and then head back home. The terrain was very familiar. Rolling hills of snow, dotted with stunted spruce trees bent by relentless winds. The silence broken only by the crunch of Elias's boots and the occasional caw. But as he reached the creek around noon, the air shifted. It's a biting wind that kicked up, carrying the first flurries of what would soon become a nightmare. By early afternoon, the flurries turned into a full-blown blizzard. It's the kind of storm that locals later called White Death. Winds screamed at over 50 miles an hour, whipping snow into this blinding curtain that erased the world around Elias. Visibility dropped to 0. Elias couldn't see his own mittened hand in front of his face, let alone the path back to Nain. His tracks, they were buried in seconds, and the landscape became disorienting. It became this void of white. Panic flickered in his chest, but Elias fought it down, knowing that stopping meant freezing to death. In Labrador, a blizzard like this isn't just dangerous, it's a killer. Temperatures with wind chill plunged to -40, the kind of cold that can claim a life in just under an hour through hypothermia. And Elias was alone. He was miles from shelter, and night was falling like a shroud. The stage seemed set for a fight that he couldn't win. Or so it seemed. Sink in with me this bone-deep terror. Elias and his situation. He's stranded in the heart of a Labrador blizzard. Temperatures are so low his breath freezes on his scarf. His body already numbing as the wind slices through his parka like it's nothing. Each step he takes through the knee-deep snow is a battle. His legs are heavy as if chained to the earth. Elias knows stopping isn't an option. Hypothermia would creep in, lulling him into a deadly sleep with false promises of warmth. But he's got no idea where he is. The tundra is featureless at this point. A hell, every direction is a gamble. The storm's howl is drowning out any hope of hearing a landmark like the creek. His rifle is useless. His food is buried in his pack under layers of ice, and dusk has turned the whiteout into a suffocating black. He's got maybe a few hours before his body's going to shut down, before the cold carves his name into the endless snow. Elias, he stumbles forward and he's driven by sheer will, his mind racing with thoughts of his family, his mother's worried eyes, his younger sister who's waiting for the hare that he promised to bring. He's been staggering for what feels like eternity. His fingers and toes are long past feeling when the storm's roar seems to shift. Not the wind, not a distant avalanche, but a sound that shouldn't be there. It's faint at first, almost lost, a deep murmur that cuts through the chaos. Elias freezes, not from the cold, but from a jolt of raw shock. His breath catches, ice crusting his lips as he spins around, squinting into the void. There's nothing. No rescue party, no other soul for miles in this frozen wasteland. Anyway, his heart is thunderous. Is his mind splintering under the strain, weaving ghosts as death looms? He stands there, snow's pelting his face like shards, waiting for silence to prove that he's mad. But the voice returns, and it's stronger now, piercing the storm like a beacon. It's steady, almost commanding, like an elder who's guiding this lost child through a tale of survival. Elias's mind is reeling. Part of him screams that it's a delusion or a trick, but another part, the part that's clinging to any thread of life, urges him to listen. His legs shake as he veers right, trudging into a drift deeper than before, driven by this phantom order, each step a roll of the dice with his fading strength. Minutes bleed into what feels like hours. His body is a shell now, his vision's blurring, snow caking his eyelashes until he's half blind. The cold is a beast, gnawing at a core, whispering for him to collapse, to rest, just for a second. But the voice doesn't relent. Not yet. Almost there. It's unyielding. It's a lifeline in the dark, pulling him onward when his soul begs to just quit. And then, through the haze, Elias glimpses something. It's this dark shape against the white, flickering like a mirage. He blinks quickly, snow stinging his eyes, half sure if it's another lie. But as he drags himself closer, it takes form. A small overhang of rock. The shallow cave that's carved into a low cliff, barely big enough to shield Elias from the wind, but a barrier against death. Is this real? He reaches out, his frozen hand brushing the rough stone, and a choked gasp escapes him. It is real. He collapses inside, huddling against the wall, the storm's deadly scream muted by the frail shelter. The cave is empty, no warmth, just damp stone as cold as the outside, but it's enough to keep him from the wind's jaws. He curls into himself. Breath is shallow, mind is spinning. How did I find this? Was that voice real? He shivers through the night as the blizzard rages on, alive, but haunted by a question that he can't seem to answer. By morning, the storm eases, the wind dropping to a mournful wail, and Elias, who's weak but breathing, finds his bearings. He limps out, the tundra now a silent graveyard of snow, and somehow navigates back toward Nain, guided by the faint outline of familiar hills. But the twist that gnaws at him, that cave wasn't on any route he knew. When he later returned with his uncle to show where he'd sheltered, combing the area for hours, it was gone. He couldn't find it. Not a trace. No overhang, no cliff, just endless snow and rock, as if It had never even been there. Not a crevice, not a mark. So what led him? What spoke through the storm? Was it his instinct, a dying mind's desperate lie? Was it something else? Someone watching over him in the frozen dark, nudging him toward this purpose that he can't yet see? Elias's survival on February 9th, 1982, it defies every rule of nature because he endured over 18 hours in a whiteout blizzard in temperatures that should have killed him, turned him to ice long before he found shelter. And medically, he suffered frostbite on his hands and his feet, severe dehydration and exhaustion, but somehow, some way, no permanent damage beyond some scars. He spent days recovering at home, his body healing, but his spirit marked by that voice. He says to everybody, "I heard it clear as I am speaking now." That's what he told his family. His tone is still edged with wonder. It wasn't me. Something wanted me here. His community, they were split. Some called it delirium, a brain on the brink, spinning tales to survive maybe. Others believed that he'd been touched by a spirit, perhaps one of his ancestors that's tied to the land, guiding him for a reason beyond understanding. And local Inuit lore speaks of Qualupalik, unseen protectors in the snow. But there's no proof, just stories whispered by firelight. Elias never hunted alone in a storm after that. Who would blame him? He carried a quiet reverence, a nod to something or someone he couldn't name, and that phantom cave became a weight in his mind. He led his uncle back to the spot, or what he thought was the spot, describing every single detail, the jagged overhang, the shallow depth, the smell of wet stone, but they found nothing, just endless white, mocking his memory. Was it ever there? Did someone place it in his path just long enough to spare him, then erase it from the earth? At the Mortals, we don't have the answer, but the chill of the unknown lingers, just as cold as that Labrador night. Let's pause for just a moment before our second story. I want to tell you about this, something that's been a game changer for me and the Mortals podcast. Because if you've ever dreamed of starting your own podcast or just creating content that sounds polished, professional, without fancy studio setup, you need to check out Descript. I'm telling you, it's this all-in-one audio, video editing platform that's entirely online. No expensive gear is required, people. Descript, it offers features like automatic transcription, easy editing where you can cut and rearrange just by editing text, and even AI-powered voice cloning to fix a flub up without re-recording. I use it every time, for every episode, to trim out my awkward stumbles and ensure that you're getting the best listening experience. It saves me hours, and it lets me focus on connecting with you through these stories. And their latest feature, AI Avatars, it is next level. You can generate a video of yourself reading a script without ever hitting record, so you can't say anymore, "I'm scared to be in front of the camera." Just type it. Descript makes it look seamless. So whether you're a creator or you just want to share your own tales, Descript takes the headache out of production. Give it a try for free at get.descript.com/mortals. Links in the description. Please trust me. You'll wonder how you ever got by without it. Let's dive into our second story, one that is just as gripping and perhaps a little stranger. Our second story transports us to the dense and untamed jungles of Papua New Guinea, specifically to this remote highland village called Como. It's in the Hela province during the early months of 2006. This is a region where the earth itself, it seems alive, where rugged mountains, they tower over these lush valleys, and isolated communities live by ancient customs, far from the reach of modern roads or rapid aid. Como is a speck in this vast wilderness. It's just a cluster of thatched huts surrounded by rainforest that's so thick it swallows sound, where the nearest town is a grueling 2-day trek through mud and rivers. And it's here we meet a 32-year-old woman. We're going to call her Mara, a mother of 2 and a farmer who tended to taro and sweet potato fields to sustain her family. Mara was this resilient woman who's accustomed to the harshness of highland life, floods, travel disputes, the constant threat of disease. But on March 14th, 2006, she's going to face a terror that no amount of grit could prepare her for. And it all began as an ordinary day. Mara was working her field on the edge of the village. Her children are playing nearby under the watchful eye of Mara's sister. She'd risen at dawn, as always, to weed and harvest under a sky bruised with the threat of rain. Mara carried a woven bag for her crops, a machete for cutting vines, and little else, expecting to return home by midday for a meal of boiled cassava. The air was heavy with humidity, the jungle buzzing with insects and the distant calls of birds of paradise, a soundtrack, really, that's familiar to Mara as her own heartbeat. Como sat in a seismically active zone, part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. But earthquakes were very rare enough that most villagers paid little mind to the occasional tremor. Around 11 a.m., as Mara bent to pull a stubborn root, the ground gave a faint shudder, a ripple that was so subtle she thought it was her own fatigue. She straightened, glancing at the trees. Their leaves are still, and so she shrugged it off. But the earth wasn't done with her. By late morning, the faint shudder grew into a warning growl. The birds fell silent, an eerie hush blanketing the jungle, and Mara felt a prickle of unease. She called to her sister to gather the children, sensing something wrong in the air that she couldn't name. Then, without warning, the world erupted. A violent quake, later measured at 6.2 magnitude by distant seismologists, struck with a ferocity that split the ground beneath Como. The earth roared like a wounded beast. Trees are snapping like twigs, and the hillside above Mara's field began to crumble. Boulders and mud are cascading down in this deadly torrent. A landslide is triggered by the quake, racing toward the village with this unstoppable force. Scream was lost in the chaos as she saw her family vanish behind a wall of debris. The stage was set for a survival that would test every limit and leave a mark that defies explanation. Mara is in the midst of this catastrophic earthquake in the highlands of New Guinea. The ground beneath her literally splitting like brittle bone. The air thick with dust and the deafening crash of this landslide swallowing everything that she knows. Her field gone. It's replaced by a churning wave of mud and rock toward her family. It's crying. Her family's cries are cut off as the village disappears under the deluge. Mara bolts. Pure instinct is now driving her, legs pumping through the shaking earth as she dives for a cluster of trees, hoping their roots might hold against the tide. But the landslide is faster, a monstrous force of nature, and slams into her like a wall, knocking Mara off her feet. She's tumbling, buried under a suffocating weight of wet earth, her machete torn from her hand, her body battered by unseen stones, pain searing through her legs, sharp, sickening snap as something breaks. And for a moment, Mara can't breathe. Mud clogging her mouth, nose, and throat. She's trapped. She's pinned beneath tons of debris. The world reduced to darkness in this fading rumble of earth. Survival at this point is unlikely. It's impossible, really. Most people would suffocate or be crushed within just moments under such weight. Mara's body screams in agony. Her left leg is useless, shattered, her ribs aching with every shallow gasp. She's disoriented. The weight above her is pressing down like a giant's hand. Her mind is a haze of terror and loss. Her children, her sister, are they even alive? She claws at the mud with her bare hands. Nails are tearing. Desperation is fueling her, but it's futile. The debris is too heavy, too dense, and her strength ebbs with every futile scrape. She's losing air. Her lungs are burning. The darkness is closing in like a tomb. Hours pass. Maybe it was minutes. Time becomes a blur in this buried hell. Mara's thoughts drift to her ancestors, to the stories of the spirits of the jungle, protectors of the land, and she whispers this plea, not sure if it's to them or to herself. It's a broken prayer for her family, perhaps, maybe for a chance to see them again. She's fading. She feels it. The cold of the earth is seeping into her core. When something impossible cuts through the silence, another voice has a resonant tone. It's not a memory. It's very distinct, and it murmurs from nowhere. Dig. It's a man's voice, deep, steady, with this cadence that feels ancient, like it's carried on the wind from some time long past. Mara's fading mind jolts back. Her breath is hitching. She can't see, can't move much, but this voice is real, and it's echoing in the suffocating dark. Mara says, "Who's there?" Her voice is a ragged whisper, but there's no answer, just this oppressive weight of mud. She thinks that it's a delusion, but it comes again, and it's firmer. Dig now. Her heart stutters. Something in that command ignites a spark in Mara, a flicker of purpose that she didn't know that she had left. And her hands, raw, bleeding, they start moving again, scraping at the mud with a strength that shouldn't be there. Each clawing motion is torture. Her broken leg is screaming, but the voice keeps her going, repeating every so often, "Up, dig up." It's as if it's guiding her, directing her hands to a softer patch of debris, a pocket maybe where the earth isn't as packed. She doesn't know how long she digs. Time is lost in this haze, but her fingers finally break through a sliver of air, a faint draft that tastes of jungle and rain. She pushes harder, driven by that unseen urging, until a small hole opens, just enough to gulp a breath, to see a sliver of gray sky. She's not free yet, still half buried, but alive, against every odd stacked against her. And above, unbeknownst to Mara, the quake and landslide have devastated Como. Her village is a scar of mud and broken trees. Many lives have been lost in just an instant. Survivors, including her sister and her children, who miraculously sheltered under a sturdy overhang, they're scattered. Some are injured, all in shock. Word of the disaster hasn't even reached distant authorities yet. Help is days away in this remote corner of the world. Mara, still pinned, fights to widen that hole, her body trembling with exhaustion, when the voice speaks just one last time. Hold. They're near. She doesn't understand, but she clings to those words, her will bolstered by something beyond her pain. And then, after what feels like an eternity, she hears faint shouts. Her sister's voice, calling her name through this wreckage. Villagers, digging through the debris for survivors, spot her. They spot her hand. It's protruding from the mud, a desperate signal of life. And they claw at the earth with bare hands and broken tools, pulling her free just as her strength gives out completely. Mara emerges, battered, broken. Her leg is twisted at this disgusting angle, her body caked in mud and blood. But Mara is breathing. Her sister sobs, clutches Mara, and through blurred vision, Mara sees her children, scraped up but alive, and they're running to her. And the relief is this tidal wave. But so is the question that burns in her mind. What spoke to her under the earth? How in the world did she find the will to dig when death was absolutely certain? The villagers carry her to a makeshift shelter, stunned that she's even alive. Medically, it's a miracle. Severe dehydration, a compound fracture in her leg, multiple contusions, but there's no internal bleeding despite hours under crushing weight. She'd been buried for 6 hours? Far beyond what most could endure. She should have suffocated. And as she lay recovering, wrapped in torn cloth, she whispers to her sister about the voice. Her sister, steeped in local beliefs, nods with wide eyes. It was a spirit of the land. It chose you. But Mara, she's torn between tradition and doubt. She can't settle on an answer. Was it her own mind? Was it a fragment of hope given form? Or was it something greater, ensuring that she remained for a reason that she can't yet fathom? The aftermath of Como was grim. The 2006 quake, though not widely reported due to the region's isolation, claimed dozens of lives in the highlands, with entire families lost to landslides. Mara's survival stood out even among the few who made it. Her burial should have been her end. She spent months healing, her leg mending slowly with crude splints and herbal remedies, as modern medical aid trickled in too late for many. The voice never returned to her, but its echo lingered in her dreams, a deep murmur tied to the jungle's heartbeat. And years later, she'd sit by her rebuilt hut, watching her children grow, and wonder if her life was spared for them, or maybe something larger, a purpose woven into the earth itself. We're left with this same wonder, a shiver of the unknown as deep as the fissures that split Como that day. Let's take a quick break before we reflect. If you're a content creator, if you're a writer, if you're a student, you're almost back to school, sorry to say, or just someone with a flood of ideas that you can't get organized, check out Poppy AI. It's like having this brainstorming partner that never sleeps. It helps me generate ideas for episodes, it helps me draft scripts, and even digs up obscure background details for stories like you're hearing today, saving me hours of research through unreliable sources. So whether you're building a podcast, you're writing a story, doing something for school, maybe shaping a social media presence, Poppy AI streamlines your workflow, and it turns rough concepts into very polished content in just minutes. Intuitive, powerful, and honestly, a bit addictive. Try it for yourself. Give it a free trial at the link in the description because it's going to spark ideas that you didn't even know you had. All right, the haunting unknown of Elias and Tara and their stories. Elias lost in this Labrador blizzard, who's guided by a voice through a storm that should have claimed him, finding a cave that vanished as if it never was. And then Mara, buried alive under a landslide in Papua New Guinea, urged to dig by this presence in the dark, clinging to life when every statistic screamed that it would be over for her. Both endured beyond reason. Elias for over 18 hours in deadly cold, Mara for 6 under crushing earth. Science and logic, they say they shouldn't have survived. And then, of course, the intervention, the commanding voices, specific, undeniable. They pull them from the brink. Elias's cave, Mara's will to dig. Were these hallucinations that were born of desperation? Maybe survival instincts amplified by crisis? I think something deeper. I think something even more so than just a force that's tied to the land, to their lineage, even more serious and deeper than something deciding that they had more to do on this earth. Elias himself said years later, I wasn't meant to go then. Something needed me here, though I don't know why. Mara, holding her children close, she murmured later, I was kept for them, or maybe more. I feel as if I'm being watched still. These stories, they chill me, and they chill us at the Mortals, not just for the escape from death, but for the brush with something ancient, maybe unseen, in places where human strength alone falls short. These people's survival, they transform them. Elias into this man who treads lightly in the snow, Mara into a mother who sees purpose in every dawn. And it forces us to wonder, are there hands beyond our sight that are guiding us when we trespass into the jaws of nature? Do we each carry a thread of fate, a reason to remain even if we can't see the tapestry? And these questions, they hang heavy for me, heavier than the snow or the mud. And they whisper to me of a design that we won't ever grasp while here. Elias, Mara, they walked away from the edge of oblivion, and they were touched by voices that defy our understanding. I mean, sometimes the unexplainable isn't this riddle to solve, but maybe a weight to feel, a reminder that life might be shaped by forces that we can't see, nudging us towards paths that we don't yet know. So if you've ever felt that nudge, a near-death moment perhaps, a mysterious guidance, a loss that reshaped your entire purpose, I want to hear from you. Join the Mortals, join the community, a space for deeper conversations, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, and a chance to connect with others who sense the unseen in these stories like you do. And of course, members get early access to episodes, bonus content, discounts, and a direct line to share your own experiences with yours truly. Check out the link in the description or visit nathanmorrismusic.com to join. Your story might be the one that we tell next. Be sure to stream all my music wherever you listen to your favorite songs. Maybe you like my new song Breakthrough, or also check out my new merch like, hello, I'm probably anxious because Hello. Hey. And remember, new episodes drop every Tuesday, Thursday. Don't miss a single one. Thank you for listening to The Mortals, where the barriers shatter, the mysteries remain unsolved, and sometimes the answers only lead to deeper questions. I like it that way. Until next time, take care of yourselves. You are loved far more than you could ever know.